formed together, made for elevation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. It is a special episode because if you remember on Sunday, I said we weren't supposed to have an episode today. But we are here. We are here for specific reasons. We're here for two of them, actually, in particular. One, CRB, and two, Emergency Dispatch Center. So those are the two things we're going to talk about tonight. And if we get into other things, that'd be just a cherry on top. But first, for those of you who may be new to the program, I am Joseph Lau. I am your host, your guiding light through the craziness going on in our city, in our state, and in our country. So, like I said, we have a lot to talk about in regards to what happened on Monday night and what the next steps are going to be for everybody. I'm extremely proud of what was accomplished on Monday night and the fact that people showed up and people got engaged. So that's always great to see. We need to see that a little bit more often. But again, this program always works best when you take a part of it. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610, or you can email us at straighttalkjv@gmail.com. And of course, if you are on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch, you can catch us here on the message board. I see it's starting to be a pretty quiet message board, even though I still think most people just don't know that we're actually on tonight. They may not have seen their notifications. But I see as we go along here, I see the numbers are going up. So the mayor has not vetoed it yet, and you're one step ahead of me. We'll get to that on what procedures and what protocols are going to be next. But again, it's always good to talk to you guys, so feel free to always call in or email us. Or like I said, always go on to the chat. So anyone who was there on Monday night over at Lincoln Middle School, they had two things on it, really two main things on the agenda. One was the library, and the second one was, of course, the creation of the Civilian Review Board. The library, now we can get into more detail on that on Sunday, They ended up passing, I believe it was like three point something million dollars more in spending for the library for the expansion. But there's so much more to that we'll get into on Sunday. For me, Monday night was all about the CRB and what it's going to do for the city and what it's going to do for the police department. I love to see that the police department was fully represented. I saw the chief was there, the captains were there, some detectives were there. The union was there, which was all good. But most importantly, the public was there. The public was there to give their opinion. One more time on why they did not want a CRB. Now, it was nice that one of the counselors was actually keeping track, and it was 29-12 against the CRB in comments for public comment. But if you notice, the people that were for it really didn't know much about what was going on beforehand, which is why in my comments, that's pretty much what I tried stressing about what was not being done. Susan, welcome. Susan has the COVID, so she's still here, so I guess that's good. But she is homesick, so it's nice to see that you were able to tune in there. And I hope you are feeling somewhat better, you and the entire house. And I will stay away from you guys as much as I possibly can, because I don't want your sickness. But I have a story about COVID, if we have time, about what the governor's saying about vaccinated people. So, which I thought it was quite interesting. But again, as far as Monday night, I am so extremely proud of all the people that showed up, that came to voice their opinion against it. I thought it was spectacular. It took 2.5 hours. Well, really 2 hours. It was about 8:30 when it ended. It took 2 hours for public comment. 2 hours. And everybody only had 3 minutes. And some people did not go 3 minutes. That just shows you how much engagement there was. And again, I couldn't have been any happier. That's how every single council meeting should be like. Every council meeting should be just like that. I don't mind sitting there for a 4-hour meeting. I actually had to leave the meeting, drop the kids off, drop Joseph and Tucker off, and then go back. That's how important that meeting was. And I give kudos to not only the public, but to some of the counselors. That made really good points. And to the police chief, who knocked it out of the park. The police chief knocked it out of the park when he had his opportunity to speak out against the CRB. And we're going to get into all that. Because we did have one defector. At the end of the day, the vote was 8-4 with Crystal Blake. Crystal Blake voted against the CRB. Now, if you remember, Councilwoman Blake, who represents the 3rd District, my district here, she is actually the one that was really at the forefront of trying to get the use of force committee together. But at least she, at the end of the day, she took all the information given and she actually analyzed it and said, you know what? This is a waste. This isn't the best way to spend the taxpayers' money. This isn't the best way to waste the public's time or the council's time. And kudos to her. So we need one more. So here's what actually happens now. So now it passed 8-4. Now the mayor Scarpati, who says he's going to veto, well, who hinted that he was going to veto it, still has not vetoed it yet. Now he has 5 days. Now, I don't know what real difference it makes on what day he does it. And I always prefer that he stretches this out as long as he can. He has till Monday to veto it. And then the council has 5 or 7 days to take it back up and try to override his veto. Now, to override his veto, they need 2/3, which means that they need 8 counselors to vote to override his veto. Because I don't think Blake is going to change hers. And I damn know that there's not a single Republican or We the People that's going to vote for it. Now, why? So Sean brought up a good point. So it's supposed to be a lame duck council. And what does that mean? A lame duck council, after elections, normally the last month is used to clean up some little issues, some non-important issues that may have come up. That's what the lame duck session's for. You know, pat each other on the back, say congratulations, say goodbye to the people that are leaving, and get ready to welcome the new counselors that have just been elected. So usually no major legislation is done during this time. So why is it that this was done now? This was done now because Councilwoman Blake broke away from the Democrats. And without Chad Cardillo, this fails. If they waited to December 6th, then Chad would be gone, Ray Arlette would be there, would be sworn in, and he would have been a no vote. And if it's 7-5, then they can't override his veto. Therefore, it would fail. And Sonia Jelks, LaRue Graham, and Tomasetti have been working way too hard on this to let not only Ray Arlette screw this up for them, but having a police officer screw it up for them would have been a cherry on top. The people of this city elected a police officer, a 25-year veteran of the Meriden Police Department. The same people they're bashing, the people of this city has elected. With great numbers to represent them. So they were put in desperation mode. They were put in desperation mode to throw this right down our throats. And Chad Cardillo said this during his concession speech. After he sat there and went on his hate-filled rant, as he goes over his hate-filled rant about how Republicans suck and Republicans are liars and we let them get away with it. Come on. And then said that we were going to run this down the people's throats. It is absolutely crazy. And like I said, these liberals, these hardcore liberals, have worked way too hard on this. Because if you remember, we weren't supposed to have this vote because we still had talks. We still had talks. We still need to have more conversation. No other conversation have happened since the election happened. There has been no meeting set up. And I love how Councilwoman Jelks tried putting it on everybody else. Well, you could have called meetings. You could have called me. We're not the ones with the fucking problem. You are. Why would we call a meeting for? You already know where we stand. But what did come out during this is that during the last meeting, the chief put a compromise on the table. The chief put a compromise on the table. And apparently, the Democrats on the decided that, no, we don't care about that compromise. No, that's not what we want. Because listen, at the end of the day, this has nothing to do with what the chief wants or what the Republicans want or what the people want or what the people want. This has everything to do with getting complete control of our police department. And I laid it out. I laid it out during my speech for my 3 minutes. Anyone who has ever paid attention to what liberals do and how they do it would understand what they are trying to do. They know they can't go full board with this. They can never just come right out and say, no, we're going to have an investigative CRB and we are going to dictate to the police department on how they discipline people and what they can and cannot do on traffic stops, when they can or cannot do traffic stops. That's what this is ultimately ending up what's going to happen. If this passes, this is the first step. This is only the first step. If anyone thinks this is the end, they are not paying attention. Once this gets passed, and if it passes and if they override his veto, I guarantee you in 6 months, this council is going to be coming back and say this. Well, these guys are working so hard, but they just can't get anything done because they have no power. And they said it multiple times. Oh, they have no power to do anything. They can't do this. They can't do that. And then what's the freaking point of it? If they can't do anything and they can't override the chief's decisions, in fact, at one point, Bruce Fontanella, not knowing what the hell he's even talking about, he doesn't even know what he's voting on. He's like, oh, well, they can't even look at the chief's decision. It's like, what are you talking about? They can't look at it. Of course they can. It's part of the report. The way this works is after an investigation is done by the police department, the Civilian Review Board has 60 days to review it. Within 60 days, they have to review it after it's completely finished. That means the chief has made his decision already. Councilman Fontanella didn't even know that they could look at the chief's decision, which is ridiculous. How do you not know that? It's as clear as day. But yet he voted for it. Because then he turned around and says, oh, well, that's not good. And then tried to make an amendment. And then he tried to make an amendment to it, asking that the city council scrap that part, that they cannot review it. And every Democrat turned around and said, no. So he comes out and says, well, I have concerns about this. The fact that that if they could see the chief's recommendations and discipline, if you felt that much that you had to make a recommendation for it, if you turn around and was so nervous about it that you made an amendment plea for it, and it failed, why wouldn't you just vote against the whole thing? So either that meant something to you or it didn't. So I hope Mr. Fontanella is listening to this. And I hope you have a second chance to redeem yourself. You have a second chance here. Because I believe that the mayor is gonna veto this. And I'm taking it he's probably gonna do it on Monday afternoon. He has an opportunity to vote against it and make things right. Because like I said, in 6 months, if this passes and they override his veto, in 6 months, they will turn around and come back looking for subpoena powers. And they don't need 2/3 votes for that. And they will grant this committee subpoena powers. Now, what does that mean? That means they can compel police officers, citizens to come and testify. For what? They still will have no power to change anything. So why would you give them subpoena power? Or are we talking about what Councilwoman Cortez kind of leaned towards and what she kind of let slip a little bit? Is that they want to be like New Haven. They want to be like New Haven. They want a full investigative civilian review board that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars of your tax dollars. For what? I mean, I think the chief put it perfectly. Why would you have untrained people sitting there trying to tell police officers how to do their job? And Councilwoman Cortez walked right into that one because she tried comparing it to her job on DCF. Those people aren't just off the streets. They're not just off the streets. The office of the child advocate, they are not off the streets. They may be civilians, but they are not. They are all fully trained. Do you know how much money it would cost to train a civilian review board of 9? And I think the mayor pointed out very observantly, he turned around and said, wait a minute, what do you mean this isn't political? Because the jail said multiple times, well, this shouldn't be political. The whole thing is based on politics. The mayor, as he rightfully pointed out, he gets to choose everybody that goes on the committee because he appoints them. So right off the bat, it's political. And that's what this is all about. This is about getting her friends. This is all about getting the NAACP and all of her other social justice and radical justice, social justice warriors on this committee. That's what this is all about. That's all this is about. Whoever the mayor wants on there. That's the only saving grace, though. But then the council has to approve them. And if anyone thinks that the council, well, the Democrats on the council are going to allow Kevin to put forth conservatives or level-headed people of Democrats, no, you're crazy. They are going to have the most liberal. That's what they're going to have. And that's what they're going to demand. Or they're going to be like, oh, well, this isn't fair. the best way to fight this is to stop it now. So that means there's a special city council meeting coming up. There's going to be a special city council meeting coming up that everybody must attend. All that passion that we saw on Monday night will need to be recreated one more time. Will need to be recreated one more time. If not, more people there. Let's make this a 5-hour meeting, a 6-hour meeting. I loved every moment of it. And I loved how the Record Journal put it. You know, they talked more about how some people were interrupted. They weren't interrupted all that much. No worse than any other times. And when one councilwoman speaking out of her ass, and then she was so full of bullshit that she couldn't even get it out of her mouth, Tomasetti. At one point, she was lost for words. She is I gotta say, she is hands down the worst city councilor I've ever seen in my life. She is an embarrassment. She really is. And I gotta say, Bruce Fontanella and Chad Cardilla are not too far behind. The more I hear Bruce, the more I think that he should not be there. And how he was the top vote getter is beyond me. I have no idea. But none of this should even be happening right now. But yeah, here's where we find ourselves. This fight is not over yet. So we do have some more work to do. And we'll talk more about this on Sunday. Because I want to talk about the emergency dispatch center. I want to talk about the attempted payoff of a dispatcher. And I don't know who I'm more pissed at. I don't know if I'm more pissed at her or the city. I think probably equal. The fact that the city even thought about this. So catch this out, ladies and gentlemen. Last night, there was a pension board meeting where the city manager and the attorney tried buying off the union steward. They tried giving her an early retirement, 2-year early retirement on your dime to get her to go away and to get the grievances, over 50 grievances, to go away. And they called it restructuring. So we're already shorthanded at dispatch, and you thought the best way to fix the problem was to try to get rid of one of them? To buy them off? To buy them off at a great sum of money. Almost $300,000 of your tax dollars. Like I said, I don't know who I'm pissed off at more. I don't know if I'm more pissed at her for even taking the deal. Because, listen, it was shot down. Unanimously, 7-0. It was shot down. Because the pension board wasn't going to sit there and fix the city manager's leadership problems. So, no, she did not get it. She was going to take it. But she didn't get it. Yeah, I know you didn't take the deal because it was shot down. I don't know who I'm more pissed at. The city tried buying someone off to shut them up instead of fixing the friggin' problem, instead of addressing the problem, because there's still issues over there. There's still issues over there that nobody seems to give a shit about. We're talking about nonsense social justice crap. We're talking about civilian review boards. When we have dispatchers working 80, 90, 100 hours a week. And I love it where these liberals sit there and talk about we need to do something before something happens. Well, what about until somebody loses their fucking life? Do we deal with this dispatch center? It's ridiculous. Listen, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to buy that people are afraid of anything. It could have been, you would have had an easy retaliation suit against the city. So we're not even going to go there. I'm not even going to go there with you. You're not going to sit there and try to make an excuse like that against me. No, I'm not buying it. Not for a second. If anything, when they came to you, you should have went straight to the press. They're trying to buy me off. That is the problem with this city. Nobody wants to stand up and say, no, enough is enough. That's the problem. So don't give me excuses. Don't give me this or that. It's nonsense. And honestly, if I was a dispatcher in the dispatch center, I'd be friggin' pissed. I'd be pissed. Because is that the way we do things now? What takes everyone now? Let's have everybody, every dispatcher, just throw grievances in now. If you throw enough in, we're going to give you a buyout. We're going to get you the hell out of here because we don't want to fix the problem. We don't want to fix the problem. Let's just cover it up. Let's make it pretend it's not happening because that's all that is happening. That's all that's happening. The city manager thought, let me put it this way. I don't know what the city manager was thinking because do you really think that if you buy her off, that this was all going to go away? That we were just going to leave this alone? Really? No, this wouldn't have ended. This would not have ended at all. I would have told the city to go straight to hell. You would have made millions of dollars on a retaliation suit against the city if they had come at you even more. They don't want to fix this problem. They have no intention of having to deal with this. It's ridiculous. It's plain and simple. This is Meriden leadership. This is how they do things. This is how Meriden leadership, City Hall, does things. It's absolute crazy. Instead of fixing the problem, they're willing to buy people off that give them a hard time. They try to buy them off. And nobody's held accountable. Nobody is held accountable. So they want to just pay people off. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the city we live in. Elections have consequences. I say that every time. Elections have consequences. It's crazy. Listen, Betty, you could go on there forever. You could go on there forever, sweetheart. It's not going to change my opinion on it. They would have never fired you. But they got caught with their hands in the cookie pot, in the cookie jar. And now it's time for again, now what is the council going to do? What is the council going to do? They tried asking the pension board to clean up their mess. Public Safety Committee is still not meeting. Because the Public Safety meetings, the committee still is not meeting. They meet once a quarter to go over quarterly numbers. So, is this problem being solved? No, it's not. It's not. Ladies and gentlemen, at some point, something's got to give. Is this how we're going to let our city manager run this city? And why are they not holding his feet to the fire? Instead, we sit back and watch them pull stunts like this. So for every other emergency dispatcher that's out there, just keep filing those grievances. Keep filing away. And maybe you too will get yourself a sweetheart deal. Because apparently that's the way this city operates now. It's disgusting. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted with everything, with everyone over there. And I'm most disgusted with the city council members who seemed to not give a shit about what's going on. But when something does happen and somebody loses their life because these dispatchers are working 100 hours a week and the city has to pay out the nose, all of them. I expressed my displeasure last night with Republicans. Everybody should be on this city manager's ass. Everyone, every single one. I'm fully aware an officer is going to get hurt. I'm fully aware that there's going to be some person out there that's going to lose their life because of what's going on in the dispatch center. I'm fully aware of it. And I understand it's only a matter of time before that happens. And my goal is to get you guys help before that happens. We're trying to save a life here of somebody. And it seems that nobody on the city council, nobody in City Hall seems to give a shit. That's what's irritating. Because like I said, they love to sit there and say, we need a CRB before something happens. Well, what about until somebody loses a life out there? Do we deal with this dispatch center issue? a lot of changes need to happen quickly. And this stunt from the city manager and the legal department needs to be investigated. Needs to be investigated by the ethics committee and by the city council. This needs to be investigated on why they thought that was the answer to their problem. Because, Betty, I don't see you as the problem. I see a lack of leadership as the problem. I see a lack of accountability as the problem. I see the lack of transparency as the problem. And at this point, I like to see a lot of changes being made all the way around. But I alone can't do it. Everyone here should be emailing the city manager. He should be ashamed of himself on what he tried pulling. The legal department should be ashamed of what they tried to pull. This is not how you show leadership. This is not how you show accountability. This is how you show corruption is happening in the city. This is how you lose faith. This is how the people lose faith in leadership in this city. This is far from over. And I plan on going to see the city manager on Monday. Because he has a lot of explaining to do on why he thought this was a good idea. I'm fully aware. I've talked to them. I know why people are leaving. It's disgusting what's going on. But I can't do it alone. I can sit here and tell you about what's going on. I can share you the information. I can give you the knowledge of what's going on in the city, but I cannot fix it by myself. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us to do this. You need to email your counselors and the city manager and voice your displeasure on what the hell happened here and what's going on still. Because these dispatchers still are nowhere closer to having a normal schedule. So I thank you guys for tuning into this special edition. We're going to keep on top of this because we're not done with this conversation yet. And once we actually find out about the council meeting, we'll make sure that we put that on Sunday's show. But until then, as always, I thank you guys for tuning in to the special edition. I love you guys, and I will see you guys again on Sunday, where we have a lot more to talk about. So I love you guys, and I will see you again on Sunday. And until then, God bless you. And of course, as always, God bless this wonderful country we live in. God bless. See you later.
And the million faces formed together, made for elevation. future. Won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise. Oh, heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise. Oh, heart is beating faster, feels like thunder, magic, static. Call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise. Oh, it's our resistance. You can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping and the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise. Oh, heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise. Oh, heart is beating faster, feels like thunder, magic, static. Call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise. Oh, it's our resistance. You can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise. Oh, it's our resistance. You can't resist.